Okay, so here we are looking at the Silverado. So the reason it's here, lots of gear oil everywhere, and these leaf spring, whatever you want to call them, the cups there, they're all filled up with gear oil, and apparently this axle rusted out, and it's where the perch is and stuff. They're the welds. I guess there's a crack there, and it's just puking, you know. So it's a mess. So here's the inside of the caliper. I just pulled it off. Here's the brakes. So now we're gonna get this all off. I'm gonna start. I'm gonna try and transfer the disc brake setup here to the new axle, because the new axle is a drum brake setup, and I at least know the bolt pattern for the whole braking stuff, you know, for the axle tube. That flange is the same, so I assume it should work, but we're gonna find out. So, if these aren't broken loose, you break them loose. And I like to use the impact on these. But this axle is from the junkyard, so they actually drained the oil out of it. That's why these are loose. But normally, you take out all these bolts, except for this top one. Then you get a hammer, usually a dead blow, not something this beefy. Do that, give out a good whack, it loosens it up, and that way you can do this, and it'll drain all your oil into the pan, and you won't have the cover fall off and make a mess. But like I said, this one's already been done, so now we're gonna finish getting this off, because I gotta pull the axle on this. Oh, it's got a reusable gasket, one of those fancy rubber things. Not bad. It does have the locker in it. How about that? Okay. All right, so I'm in the process of pulling the axle. First thing, take the brake drum off. Take the cover off, which I just showed. Next, you gotta flip it around until you get the differential. You gotta get this cross pin out. So there's this bolt, this little set screw bolt thing. This for Silverado is an 8mm, and it may be pretty tight. So once you get that loose, just kind of back it out of there. Oh, let me set this down. Okay, there we go. So almost got this out. So it actually goes through the pin. So now this pin will move. So we're gonna have to spin it around so we can get it. So it will come out. There we go. Just gonna set that there. All right, so yeah, once you get that cross pin out, then you have to spin it around. These axles are held in by C clips. So it starts out looking like this. So you can't get to it yet. So you gotta actually just kind of give it a tap on the outside, you know, right on the flange. So I just use this, give it a little tap, and it moves that in there. So you can spin this around and you'll be able to get the C-clip out. You'll need like a magnet. At least that's what I'm gonna use. It'll make it easier. So we'll get back to it as soon as I get my magnet and get this spun around, and then I'll show you. So here's my update. I can't find my magnet. So I tried using my Makita extension, because I know it has a magnetic tip, and it's just not quite there. I can just get it to start, but I can't get it. So next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try on using some needle nose. Really skinny ones, but I think it'll get it. Of course, I use the rustiest pair. Let's see if okay, looks like I got a hold of it. So I'm gonna squeeze. There we go. So there's our C-clip. Obviously don't lose that. And now we got the driver's side axle will come out. So I'll give it a little yank. I don't know if it'll come out if I just, yep, there we go. Use some stuff here. Let's do this. There we go. I'll put that to the side. So now that's out. That's how that looks. The whole reason I'm doing this is I got to get these backing plates off. There'll be an update on that. Now I have full access to it too, so I can get these bolts. So just bolts. So that's next. I figure I need like a visor or something on this. I don't know if moving it closer is going to help. That's okay. Let's see if we can. Yep. This one. Let's do this one. That one. Next. That's good. Really need to get another retaining ring for this impact. Stuff just keeps falling out. Last one. Okay. That's that. There we go. Backing plate off. I have to just undo this brake line, and then we'll be good. Okay, so continuing on. Ready to get the whole brake setup off. So I just broke these two bolts here. This is your caliper mounting bracket. Those are 18mm. So now I'm going to try and use this impact on it because they're still really tight. Try not to bump the camera too much. Scoop the hose this way. This one. Of course, this one's at a weird angle. There it goes. Man, someone used a lot of Loctite on this. Probably off. Yeah, let's see. All right, so that's off. Take the rotor off. Let's get that there. Let's see. Okay. I guess the next thing I gotta drain the diff fluid in this because I gotta pull this axle out, and then I gotta undo these bolts. Wow, this thing is beat. It's very rusty, so not really surprised. Alright. So we're going about as far as we can go with this part of it. So I'm going to shift to the differential so I could drain the gear oil in that and go from there. Cord. It's an 8mm before, so hopefully this will. There it goes. I don't know if I can get my hand in here to It's already greasy. Yeah, here it comes. Look at that. See? Take that. Slides out. Put that diff. Now we just got to spin the axle so I can get all the C-clip out. Get it in the right position. So pause for now. Okay, so I'm gonna give the axle a tap. We're gonna see what happens. Move it in some. Is that going yet? I can't actually tell. It's very dark. Didn't look like it, huh? Let's see. Sure, let's try it again. The other axle worked. You see that? You can see that C-clip now. Yeah, see it moving? It's there. I gotta get a little bit more so it'll actually stay there. Yeah, that'll work. So now, hopefully we can still see, yep, we can still see it. I'm gonna take these because I don't have my magnet. I did this with a different one. I was able to get it. I might actually have to move you though. You know what? I have an idea. Can't get my finger in there. Yeah, so I'm gonna spin this. There, got it. There we go. My hands are already greasy, so just nice like that. Mix together. Now we're gonna undo these bolts. 18, I think. That. This should. I don't want to beat on too much. This is aluminum. There it is. So now I gotta disconnect the brake line and the emergency cable, and we'll be able to pull that all off. So I'll probably have to put these two bolts back in, but that's fine. We'll just do that now, just so it'll hold it while I mess with it. Okay, correction. I don't have to disconnect the line. I just gotta take this brake hose line retainer. So this is free now. So that's good. I don't have to interrupt that system. Now I gotta get this out. I don't know how this comes out. Springy looks like a lot of fun. That's what it looks like. You do just push usually like. So this thing was frozen out. That's why I couldn't do it. So what I did was I took channel locks and got it on that side there and squeezed it together. So you force this up here and it allows the spring to kind of relax. And then from there I actually used the channel locks again, and I was able to just grab the front portion of the spring, kind of just wiggle it off this arm there, right here. Just bring it out and around, it popped off. So now this will be there, and normally if there wasn't a spring here, the way I take off these, like the e-brake cable up front, is I use a box end wrench, usually 13 millimeters perfect. It slides right over, it hits all these little tangs on the outside, and then you just pull it right out. But the spring's in the way, can't really get it off easily, so you know, the other method I usually use is just a pair of pliers, and then that's about it. So I'm gonna do that next. And so we're back on this. Oh gosh, I'm trying to get this camera in a broken tripod to sit still. So I kind of went with a different method. So there's 3 tanks, legs, whatever. I can't think what to call these right now. I couldn't really get my pliers in here, so I usually just bend them, you know, just bend them so they're not sticking out anymore. So just push on them with the screwdriver, and this one I just kind of put it here and just give it a whack, and it'll, you know, that whole side will go in. But there's just one more to get now, and of course it's the one that you can't see, but it's there. And once it goes, it'll go. Okay, so I was able to get the last one. It's right here. I put my screwdriver in like that, just kind of pried like this, and pushed on it enough, and then just gave it a yank, and it's coming out. So let's pull that cable like that. So that's that. So now this is ready to come off. So let me finish doing that real quick. That's it, of course. Okay, here's the update. Axle's falling out right now. So I finished doing all the brake stuff. I got the main disc caliper, you know, mounting point thing. I don't know what it is. It's just a bigger little, it's like a little hub. It bolts that flange. So I got that off on both sides. Caliper's all hung up. The brake line's disconnected, like the mounting of it from the axle. Got all that done. Shocks are disconnected. Obviously the diff cover, all that stuff you saw earlier, because I had to pull the shafts. So now I just got done loosening the leaf springs, and we're at the fun part. There it is. Now, let's move that out, but I'm gonna drag it out anyways because I don't have a better way to do this. So, well, usually what I do is I actually put this piece of wood like under the diff, and it kind of helps slide it across the rocks. That way I can kind of pull it, and it's less resistance. So, yeah, use what you can to make the job as easy as it can be, I guess you could say. So, that's where we are right now. Okay, let's see if we can do this without hurting myself. Hold on a second. There that is. Cool. Okay, we're back on this today. So last night I got the axle kind of slid into place, and then just picked up one side, used the block to hold it, and then kind of did the same thing with the pinion so it didn't tilt, and just kept doing the same thing. That was it. I didn't feel like sliding the jack under here because it's a pain with the gravel, and the jack's like 100 pounds. So to me this was easier, but it works. Now all I got to do is tighten up these U-bolts, get that all snugged up there, and I'm going to take care of everything in here before I start working on all this stuff out here. So get the drive shaft back in and shocks on, and then I'll start working on probably getting this stuff buttoned up, and then I'll put the shafts in. That way I can get the center section done, minus adding gear oil in. So stick that on there, grab your 4 bolts here. That's it. It goes on nicely like an assembly. And then now the next stage is we're gonna get some axles back in it. So, okay, time to put that back in this bracket here. So these earlier, I had to bend these, so now we're gonna bend the back. If I can work kind of backwards here. Just give them a little leverage. So they kind of get their spring back there. That's it, that's all you need. Just get that cable through its slot. And push. Okay, so the cable's in. This is the part, it's not too bad. Just gotta pull that spring back. Might even be able to do it by hand right now. Let's see, it goes on like that. So it's probably gonna move, but what you want to do is go back where the emergency brake cable is disconnected on the driver's side, where it meets that where the 2 go into 1, that little retainer, and you want to pull the cable towards the front of the truck. Or relax it a little bit. Maybe. There we go. So now that you did that, probably have to readjust it, but it should make it a little easier. Kind of. Does it both ways. Makes it harder to work the spring on, and at the same time it makes it easier to get it on once it's on. See, I'm almost there. There. So now that's on. So that's that. Maybe somebody has a simpler way to do it, but that's how I do it. Okay, we're back. So just got done putting the caliper back on. Everything else here on. The emergency brake cable down here and the brake line retainer. I need to wipe this screen. This screen's really... Oh, that's worlds better. There we go. So the main difference here, going from drum to a disc brake setup, you could probably already notice it already. Using OEM parts, if you're putting disc on a drum setup axle, the axle flange itself it's set up different. It's, you know, it's perpendicular to the ground. So, and as opposed to the standard drums or the disc setup, it's clocked. So it's like a diamond, like this. And the way that, I don't know what you want to call it, the backing plate and the little assembly there that holds the caliper and stuff, the caliper bracket on, you know, it's made in such a way that it's adjusted for that. So it puts the caliper like right on the side here, right here. Doing it this way, you know, you kind of got to pick where you want the caliper. It's either going to be moved up here or it's going to be down here. And, you know, I did look at both, and I pretty much decided that although it would be beneficial to have it down here only for one reason I could think of, and that's to have the bleeder screw pointing up, or, you know, at least going that way, which makes the bleeding process a lot easier. It gets easier to push bubbles out and stuff. But that was it. Other than that, I wouldn't want a caliper on the ground like that. Well, not on the ground, but down here, because, you know, you're obviously closer to the road. You're going to catch more road debris. This truck, I know, will be used on a farm, so, you know, it's going to get caked in mud, and I just don't want that for, you know, the customer. So elected to put it up here. And if bleeding would become a problem, Very much like some of the slave cylinders you might have to bleed on a truck, especially the square body I had. It's actually in standard procedure, you know, in the manual it says that you actually have to unbolt the slave cylinder, clock it like a 45-degree angle so you can get that bleeder screw pointing up, and then you actuate the clutch and bleed it that way. You can do the same thing if we absolutely had to, but I don't see why we would. But if we do, you know, we can do that. So I'd rather do that here than, you know, leave it down here and have it, I don't know, susceptible to just road crud, farm crud, you know, you name it. So I go with this. So I think that's the best option. I mean, other than that, this whole swap, you want to call it, it's bolt on. Now, I didn't have to modify or do anything. Everything is exactly the same. So it all bolted straight, you know, on, except for the only difference was that flange, which clocks the caliper different. So that's just something to think about. Otherwise, you know, if that really bothers you, then I wouldn't do it this way. And you can buy the kit they have out there, which I forget who makes it, but it's around $500, and it gives you the bracket that puts the caliper on the side, just like OEM. But that's just, you know, budget call and, you know, how you want it to look at the end and function, I guess. But this will still work just fine, and we're gonna go with that. Okay, so we got to change this U-joint here because it does not fit the yoke in the replacement axle that we put in. It's just a pinch too small. So the truck is a 2000. The axle that's in it now is a 2004. And what you're going to need for something like that, most likely, is that part number. This is kind of across the board for, you know, different manufacturers. So for Moog and Precision and whatnot. This is called a conversion U-joint because the cap size in the drive shaft versus the yoke are two different sizes now. So that's how this fixes it. So you're going to need something like that to mesh those two together, because you're coming from, you know, the standard truck that has the steel drive shaft in it in this case, and you're going to the axle that was originally in a truck with an aluminum drive shaft, so it uses a little different cap size. And in this case, this UJ447, but really you just need to know 447 is one cap size is 1.125 inches or 1 1/8 inches, and the other one is 1.187 inches, or I think it's 3/16. But yeah, so we're all done. Just got back from a test drive, worked out great. So here's a view of how your e-brake and caliper and stuff, how it is, you know, looking from back here, because of way, you know, the flange is clogged, so it changes it. So I don't think it's terrible. It definitely works. And then, you know, it could save you whatever it is, $500–600 on that kit, if you don't mind this. I mean, you could absolutely clock that caliper another way and get these parking brake cables up higher, but I don't think it'll be an issue. Not unless you're taking this thing in the woods, then that'd be different. But yeah, we should be good here. So